Welcome to another episode of Mic'd Up with Chiro. Today, we're going to dive into the world of sleep.
I think they're all diving into the world of sleep with your podcast.
I knew I shouldn't have invited you to the next podcast. Actually, I'm going to give you a little compliment here. We're actually going to dive into this topic on the leading expert on this topic, which is going to be, let's just call it a blend of Dr. Bertelsman's expertise and some thought-provoking Q&A powered by our friend ChatGPT. But we're not going to stop at information alone. We're actually going to give you some pretty practical stuff, some essential facts, practical information you can give to your patients, real world strategies you can use in your practice and even for yourself to better support your patients struggling with this all too common and really debilitating problem of poor sleep. Now, I did take this podcast and put it into 6 major, I guess, call categories or topics. The first one's going to be, why does sleep matter more than you or I may realize? And really, sleep serves as the body's nightly rest. It's going to restore your physical tissues, your mental focus, which we're going to cover in the remainder of this podcast. And even mild sleep loss disrupts mood, recovery, overall function, and it's really one of the most overlooked components of patient health. So I'll have Dr. Bertelsman talk about that section. I'm going to go into some research on learning, focus, and performance, and really centered around during sleep, the brain consolidates new information, motor skills, decision-making patterns, and poor sleep dramatically limits this ability for the brain to do that, especially in athletes and students and patients recovering from injury. Next, we're going to dive into when your body doesn't sleep very well. Sleep deprivation disrupts immune system, cardiovascular systems, and really anything that has to do with your metabolic system. It's going to increase inflammation. It's going to increase cravings and decrease recovery time from injury. So these changes are going to amplify pain, impair healing, and really directly affect your chiropractic outcomes. Next, we're going to dive into my least favorite questions I ever get as a chiropractor, which is, hey doc, what kind of pillow should I buy? Hey doc, is my mattress causing this symptom? And realistically, whether it's an opinion or a fact, there is no single pillow or mattress that works for everyone. However, we are going to give you some research associated with that to best support, pun intended, your patient during their nighttime sleeping time. And then finally, how can chiropractors help patients improve their sleep quality? And how can we use lifestyle habits? How can we improve their pain? How can we change their posture while they're sleeping to get more restorative sleep? So, Dr. B, let's start off with the first section on why sleep matters.
Oh, awesome. I love this topic, really. It is intriguing. What are you giving me? Script. Brandon, I always appreciate your lively candor, infinite wisdom, and well-timed witty dad jokes that brighten our workday. Yeah. Okay, that'll be the end of the scripts. Kind of brightens the workday like a semi with those xenon headlights coming at you in your lane. But imagine if you had a pill that could make you live longer, strengthen your memory, make you more creative, lower your risk of bad stuff like cancer and heart disease, and even simple things like colds, and make you more attractive. People would be paying anything for that. And that pill does exist. It's called sleep. A couple of years ago, one of our subscribers recommended a book for me to read, and it's Why We Sleep by neuroscientist Matt Walker. And he called sleep the single most effective thing that we can do to reset our brain and body each day. And I think that over the past really decade and recent years in particular, there's just this plethora of research coming out saying that's very true. Unfortunately, we have this other thing called life that makes us sacrifice things, our time, and especially sleep. We kind of treat sleep like wasted time and something that you can borrow or catch up. And it turns out that you can't catch up on lost sleep, that if you miss an hour of sleep, it's missed, and there's a measurable cost. So we want to say what happens at night, first of all, that we have 2 different types of sleep. We have the sleep that we imagine, or the sleep that we're all aware of, and that's the dream sleep, the REM sleep. That's our brain's emotional editor and creative studio. And that's where our brain works through the emotions. It smooths out the stressors of the day. It takes our memories. It puts them into context. A lot of people think of this like their virtual therapist or their counselor. It just kind of cleans up your brain's emotions. The other type of sleep is the non-REM sleep that's deep sleep. And that's the save and clean up button. So your brain files away new information. Everything that you learned or experienced that day gets stuck in our hippocampus, which think of that as your scratch pad. And that scratch pad gets thrown away each day until sleep grabs whatever's on the scratch pad and then stores it in our long-term memory. And sleep also is that janitor in the long-term memory that cleans things up. It sorts out what should go in which drawer, what things do we not need anymore, getting rid of that and just clearing out the mental clutter. So together, those cycles run about 90 minutes, and they have to happen 4 to 6 times per night. That's why we need to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. And that 7 to 9 hours is just not bedtime. That means sleep time. So if it takes you a half hour to go to sleep, you got to add 30 minutes to that.
So, I wrote down a couple little lessons in there, but it appears since sleeping makes you more attractive, you need more beauty sleep. The jokes are not getting any better.
Figured that was coming.
Next section, let's go through sleep. More so on its influence in learning, focus, and performance, because from what I just heard, going to bed early, sleeping consistently throughout the night is going to improve your sleep health. However, how does that affect you the next day? And what it reminds me of was when I was a chiropractic student, when we all, I'm assuming, maybe not you, Tim, had to do that all-nighter study session. And I always thought that I was going to spend a little more time up, learn a little bit more information, and get ready for that biochemistry test. However, what you're saying and what the research is saying is that that may not have been the best thing, because when I reduce my sleep, how does it actually affect your performance the next day? And what the research does find is that these sessions may be productive to gain more knowledge before the biochemistry test, is what you're thinking, but brain scans actually tell a much different story. And when you deprive a person of sleep before learning new information, the hippocampus does not actually retain that information. It stops functioning normally with decreased sleep. So one study of sleep-deprived patients showed a 40% reduction in their ability to form new memories. That's not good. Think about that. If you're spending most of your time learning new information and 40% is just not actually getting into your brain, that's a problem. Imagine reading an entire book and only remembering 60% of whatever you learned. That's going to not fare very well for that biochemistry test. So if you skip sleep after learning, you're actually losing a vast majority of what you learned, and you can't actually save that new knowledge. There is a quote from the book you just mentioned that is by far my favorite quote when it comes to sleep, and it goes something like this: you don't remember what you learn if you don't sleep. You don't learn what you study if you don't sleep. You're just awake longer and to forget it more efficiently. And I think that's one of my favorite quotes, because really it comes down to planning. That if you're needing to spend a little more time studying or working on a project or doing a chore around the house, really the question is, if you don't have time to do it the first time, do you have time to do it again? And that comes down to the ability to sleep and your body being able to remember that information. Now, let's get into the next section. So as a chiropractor, now that we went through your information on how important sleep is, we've gone through how it affects you the next day, how can we actually convey the importance of sleep to your patients?
Yeah, I mean, we think of ourselves as whole body, holistic types of providers, and obviously we are. We know that there are a few good things patients can do. Exercise is good for everything. Sleep is good for everything. That in Walker's book, he talked about how sleep is good for the immune system, or rather a lack of sleep is bad. A single night that you sleep 4 hours, so a really short night, your natural killer cell activity, those cells that fight cancer, drop by 70%. So if you're chronically sleep deprived, it's not surprising why bad things happen. Our cardiovascular system, if you sleep less than 6 hours a night, your risk of heart disease and stroke increased twofold. And there was a study not long ago in Michigan medicine that looked at the Monday after the spring daylight savings time jump. So when we lose an hour of sleep, that's the day that most heart attacks occurred. An increase in heart attacks by 24% on that day after. Our metabolism, we know that we're hungrier when we don't sleep well. In fact, a study in BMC Public Health recently said that sleep duration is associated with an occurrence of overweight and obesity, with a twofold increase in those who sleep less than 7 hours as opposed to those who sleep more than 7 hours. Our testosterone drops. If you sleep less than 5 hours a night, you're basically 10 years older with regard to your T-score. And the thing that many of us see the most of, musculoskeletal pain, If you look in the ChiroUp research feed, one of the 200 terms that our doctors track is sleep. And so we have a number of studies in the past quarter related to sleep. I just pulled up 4 of them. Spine Journal showed that decreased sleep has increased chronic low back pain. Curious said that TMD increases. Nature and Science of Sleep said that BPPV incidence increases with lack of sleep. And just recently, JMPT showed the connection between cervicogenic headaches and a lack of sleep. So our patients may not always ask about what's it doing to my immune system or metabolism. They're certainly asking what do I need to do to make my musculoskeletal system more healthy. And by addressing this, we can really have a whole body impact.
That's one of the things that I don't think many people realize with ChiroUp is the backbone behind the entire product is that research feed. We have full-time DCs constantly going through the research and not just reading the abstracts, but going through the entire articles and then deciding, I should say, how to deliver that information. Not everything needs to go in a condition reference, but to that point, some things need to go in a patient infographic or maybe a social media post or maybe just educate the doctors in a blog. So if you haven't yet, make sure you go into the research feed on your homepage and then just do a search. Do you have a question on sleep? Do you have a question on TMD or something else? And you really will find from the horse's mouth the research, the evidence, the facts on whatever it is that you care about that specific day, and it stays up to date. This does not exist anywhere else. It truly is one of the most underappreciated aspects of the Chiro platform. Now, back to I think the very beginning, I said the worst question that I ever get from a patient. I get excited to talk to patients and solve problems for them. However, the question of what is the best type of mattress. And when you really dive into the research on what type of mattress is best, the question is what manufacturer sponsored that SEO keyword? Because the real answer is there is not one single superior mattress for everyone. However, let's go into a couple things that may help you answer this question better for your patients. And when you do look at customer satisfaction studies, that does show that adjustable air beds, which are the ones that can be customized for individual firmness and support, are best. Now, there's a couple thoughts. I'm just going to give you my opinion on this because when you look at systematic reviews, they also agree that self-adjusting or variable pressure mattresses are going to optimize sleep comfort and quality and spinal alignment. I will say this, is that there's usually 2 people in the bed. So if there's 2 people in the bed and you can have a bed that can adjust firmness for each one, it probably is going to be a little more beneficial. So I do like these beds. I use one of these beds. However, I'll say that I tell my patients, just go in the mattress store, lay on a couple, what feels best for you, because when you look at all the research, it is inconclusive and often contradictory. So it's one of those things that the best mattress is the one that is best for your patient, and everybody's spine alignment and position are going to change. We all have those patients that sleep on their side and they complain about shoulder pain or hip pain. Well, stop sleeping on your side. And you always hear that age-old thing, never sleep on your stomach. And I guess maybe when you're older and sleeping on your stomach can hurt your neck. However, it's really about directional preference. If you are someone sleeping on your stomach and you have a disc problem and it's extension biased, that may be a pretty good thing. If you lay on your stomach and you're stenotic and you have a bed that has a lot of cushion, you're not going to have a great morning. So really it comes down to the patient. And when I look at the research and I look at all these things summarized into one thought process, Tim actually put a great blog, 2024, I believe, on mattresses. Check that out in our blog session. Just search for sleep and you'll be able to dive into that. And that really was not the opinion of Tim because, let's be honest, that really doesn't matter to many people. However, he went into the...
Now you know I don't show up for these.
He went into... I think it was the FTCA group and surveyed all of our subscribers, which obviously was a low demographic of opinions. However, he went through a lot of people's opinions and what they taught us about how they educate our subscribers. And then, of course, went through the research that is covered on mattresses to give a really good synopsis on how to educate your patients on mattresses. And then I'll let you cover the next section, which is on pillows.
Yeah, same thing on pillows, that there's not a lot of data to say this is the ideal mattress or this is the ideal pillow. And as you said, it's biased when it is out there. So we asked, straight from the horse's mouth, we asked the subscribers and people who are high-quality evidence-based providers, what do you recommend? And that's where we put those infographics together. So our second survey that we just did earlier this year on pillows is something that we know pillows can have a massive impact on somebody's pain, their ability to sleep, the ability to prevent future neck problems. And we learned the same thing from the research, that there's no single correct answer, that we can have a feather pillow, fiberfill, or latex, or memory foam, or water-based, or you name it, and none of them have shown to be the pillow. And it's because pillow selection, like mattress selection, is very personalized. It depends on what's their body habitus, what position do they sleep on, how firm is the mattress that they chose. One thing that we know, that if you're a side sleeper, you'll tend to do better with a little thicker pillow. One provider said it best, just fill the gap, figure out what that is. And just a half an inch or an inch difference in the gap of the height of that pillow can make a huge difference in that patient's comfort. So there are now apps and there are different processes that you can actually measure that. Take a picture of the patient, run it through the app, and figure out this is probably the best pillow. Other times, chiropractors have pillow fitting systems in their office as well. If you're a back sleeper, it usually doesn't require that big of a pillow, so a moderate height pillow or something that's cradling. A lot of chiropractors think that a cradling type pillow for somebody sleeping on their back is really good, whether that be the standard foam winged pillow or a water pillow that allows the water to displace and cradle the neck. And then stomach sleepers, this is a tougher one, that if you can sleep on your stomach or need to sleep on your stomach, an extremely thin pillow or no pillow at all. But really, for most patients, unless they have to be on their stomach, it would be best if they got off their stomach from a neck perspective, teaching them a hybrid position. So putting that body pillow on the front of their stomach and letting them throw a leg up on it and roll onto it, so they get a feel that they're on their stomach, but they're really not. I like one of my favorite quotes from this survey. We asked chiropractors for what's your best advice, and really, if you go into the forms library and get the mattress infographic and the pillow infographic, you're going to see their best advice. My favorite quote is that side sleepers need a thicker pillow generally to keep their spine neutral, back sleepers need lordosis support, and stomach sleepers need a prayer. And that's really true. When it comes to necks and stomachs, they oftentimes don't agree with each other from a sleep position. One of the, as you said, Brandon, one of your toughest questions is when somebody asks what type of pillow or what type of mattress should I use. Most of us feel 5 minutes sucked out of our life right then and there. And I used to tell patients all the advice that I could relay to them and answer their questions. Now, with these surveys and infographics, it's a whole lot easier. I say, you know what? I asked a whole bunch of my smart friends what they would recommend. Here's some information. I'd like you to read that over and let me know if you have any questions tomorrow. So that discussion went from 5 minutes down to 15 or 20 seconds, and it makes a big difference in not only me providing better information, but me getting to the next patient.
Well, instead of nodding off as you were going through your section of the podcast, I decided to think about something. I have a really good idea, and I think that our marketing department's going to love this. Should we name this podcast
Tim's podcast?
Well, that could be that, or it could be Pillow Talk with Tim and Brandon.
Yeah, that's going to crash and burn.
All right. As you were talking about that, I actually just got that question from my son. He's a senior in high school, and he always goes through, and well, obviously he's 17, so he knows more than I do. However, he always cuts off sleep and wakes up early and forgets to study and all those kind of things. And this kind of reminds me of one thing, that sleep really is the ultimate performance enhancing drug. And I think that's one of the things that I want to relay to him, but also to my patients, that there are stats on decreasing sleep. That there have been, in fact, Research Sports Medicine 2025 said that if you play tennis, if you get the accurate amount of sleep, you will serve better. Football players will run the 40-yard dash faster. Basketball players who increase their sleep up to 10 hours per night improve free throw accuracy by 9%. Maybe not Shaq. They will increase sprint times by 5%. These aren't like just you'll do better. It's not like you're going to feel better. These are actually objective measures that if you are able to do certain things, sleep better, you will actually get an improvement in function. So that journal also talked about individuals with chronic ankle instability who suffered any kind of an episode, if they get less sleep, they'll actually have more episodes of rolling their ankle. So it's one of those things that really, if we can start to improve and increase length of sleep, we're going to have not only able to learn more and feel better and all the the metabolic health reasons, but also perform better. And I think that's one thing that I like to relay to my patients, and then give them the baseline is that if you're sleeping less than 6 hours, it's going to lead to the opposite: slower reaction times, poor coordination, and increased risk of injury.
Yeah, one of the things that was stunning in Walker's book was he talked about the 1 hour loss during that time change in the spring where we spring forward. There was an increased risk of fatal motor vehicle collisions by 5 or 6% in the week after that process. And it's not because of the amount of light, it's because of the lack of sleep.
That's crazy when you think about it. How many times in the last week have you not been on schedule? It just happens, unfortunately. But I think that when I really think about this, sleep, not sleeping is not the opposite of productivity. It's the foundation. So if you're not getting sleep, your day automatically, you're decreasing productivity, learning, and performance significantly. Now, let's cover at the back end of this podcast why. Why are we so bad at sleeping? And then give you, and then realistically, your patients, some actual steps to improve sleeping habits. So I guess we'll start with you, Tim. Why are we so bad at sleeping?
Yeah, I think as you kind of alluded to, that we think of sleep as being lazy, that we brag about being busy, that in the past your busyness was kind of your social status. Well, now it's kind of sleep that's our social status. But instead of that, we continue to survive on caffeine and things that will stimulate us artificially instead of just getting sleep. When you think about it, humans are really the only species that intentionally deprive themselves of sleep. My dog has lots of things it loves to do, like chasing bones and swimming in the lake. But my dog will get plenty of sleep each night, although it'd rather be chasing bones and swimming in the lake. My dog will also stretch, something that we and our patients can probably learn too when you wake up. But I think our modern habits is what sabotages a lot of it, and a big portion of it is light. If you look into the ChiroUp research feed, you'll see a study that just came out that said if your bedroom is a little bit too light, there's a significant drop in your ability to sleep because, again, our bodies are used to saying it's dark, it's time to go to bed, and when it starts to get light, our brain says, hey, it's time to wake back up. So light can trick our brains into thinking we should be awake, especially blue light. That if you're watching screens, whether it be your phone or a television at night, that's a big trick for your brain to think it's daylight time. We also know that alcohol, you think of alcohol as being a sedative or depressant, but it also decreases your quality of sleep, especially the REM cycles, your emotional therapist and your cleanup person. And finally, caffeine. That caffeine sticks around your body a long time. Its half-life is 6 to 8 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee or a soda at lunchtime, that could very well still be in your system at bedtime. And that combination of all of those things we're doing means that most of us are walking around in this mild jet lag state. That Walker said that 2/3 of adults in developed nations fail to get their 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. And this is really more of a public health crisis than an annoyance.
So as far as some simple, practical, powerful things you can give to your patients, what are the main things that we can cover? I'm going to kind of boil this down into maybe 5 or 6 things. And I think the first one is going to be to maintain a consistent schedule. And what's really interesting, and I don't have the facts on this. However, I can go to bed at any time, and at 5:30, I wake up. So really making sure that bedtime is consistent, because your wake up time is going to be somewhat regulated by your hormonal schedule, and you really can't bank sleep. If you lose 2 hours sleep tonight, just sleeping 2 hours tomorrow night is not going to do it. So making sure it is every single night. The next one is cool your bedroom. That really about 60 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. You really need to lower your core temperature of your body to fall asleep and to stay asleep. I know, don't you use an aftermarket cooler?
Yeah, I read Tim Ferriss's book, which you gave to me, on Tools of Titans, and I kept hearing again and again all these people talking about a chili pad. So I looked it up, and after my wife and I talked about it, we bought one, and it's kind of expensive. It's, I don't know, $900 or $1,000, something like that, which I thought that's crazy. But after a while, we got it, and if I had to get a new one and it was $10,000, I'd buy the new one tomorrow. that it just completely knocks you out. It's just a mattress pad that sits on top of your existing mattress pad, like a fitted sheet, basically. It has these impregnated lines that go through it that run down to a chiller on the floor. So you have a little white noise at this chiller about the size of a basketball. It sends cool water through it, keeps your bed at the same temperature all night. And it's made a massive difference in how both of us sleep, and really all my friends that I've recommended it to. Our core body temperature needs to drop 2 or 3 degrees to fall asleep, and it just helps us get asleep and fall asleep.
What's interesting, what you said there, is you talked to your wife about it first, which normally I would make a joke about. However, when I'm looking at all the things that I want to talk about, it has to be a combined decision, because when I look at cooling your bedroom, well, he or she needs to be on board with that. The consistent schedule. The next one, avoiding alcohol and caffeine. That's going to, block REM sleep, and caffeine is going to linger. However, the next two, dimming lights and screens. If you have a TV in your room, that's not good as far as the blue light from LEDs. It really is telling your brain it's daytime. And the last one, having this is going to sound weird, a partner in sleep, not a sleep partner, but having a wind down ritual. I think this is something that kind of both of you have to be on the same page with whether it's reading or stretching or journaling or any other relaxing routine. It really trains your brain that, hey, this is happening now. I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And I know that's something that was it the 3-2-1 rule, is that really no food, caffeine, or alcohol 3 hours before bed, no work or stimulating activity 2 hours before bed, and no screens or bright light 1 hour before bed. That's one of those things can help you and your significant other kind of get ready and get your brain ready to go to sleep. So let's go through 4 kind of closing thoughts on this. And I think this is something that I can tie into sleep pretty well, because, at Chirop, we believe that really knowledge only matters when it's put into action. So you can sit in your car and listen to this podcast. However, just reading about it or just listening doesn't actually give you better patient care. It's actually how you deliver it. So you can check out the infographics that we've brought up throughout this podcast. You can read the blogs that we mentioned earlier. And really, I would recommend that we just put together a toolkit. In fact, we didn't do it. Adrian here at Chirop put this together. And you can download this. You can share this with your patients. And even if you're not a subscriber, you can actually get on our homepage and download some of these tools to use for your chiropractic practice, because it's all about leveraging all these assets through your patient education, through your EHR platform, to educate, to engage, and to elevate every single patient interaction. So check out the sleep toolkit on our homepage. It's in that What's New section. It's really going to help you take this information and deliver it to your patients. The next thing is that I think sometimes, and this is probably, maybe this is an opinion more than a fact, however, the way a person sees you at the beginning, as a chiropractor, they saw you for a headache. Well, now you're the headache person. They saw you for plantar fasciitis. Well, now you're the plantar fasciitis person. And sometimes you need other ways of delivering all the things you do in your practice. We use automated social media posting for every, I think it's 20 evidence-based posts per month. I could be wrong on that. Is it 20?
Yep,
Yeah.
20.
So 20, and it's not just about sleep. It's not just about plantar fasciitis. It's about practical, shareable content. Make sure that you're connecting with your patients on every single platform. It could be social media like a Facebook or an Instagram or MySpace. I think that's still around. But also emails, through texting. Make sure you customize how you deliver this information. Meaning, if you're just getting those 20 social media posts from us, we automatically post those to your account. Make sure you customize a couple of them. Keep your social media thing alive. Keep it professional, and then most importantly, keep it on brand. Don't have ads for other things on your social media posts, and don't have every single one of them be a call to action to come on in and get an exam. Social media should be social, so making sure that you're giving them information. And then finally, I think this is the time saver. I think you brought up as far as soon as someone asks a question about sleep, 5 minutes are now gone. And as a provider that trades time for money, this is not a good situation for me. Just use a PDF to attach to a condition report. So every single time a patient has a problem, I give them something to go home with, whether it's How many fastballs can Johnny pitch on Saturday? I have an infographic for that. What's the best kind of pillow? I have an infographic for that. And this isn't just to kind of brush off the patient. It's that they're going to forget 90% of the information that I give them anyway. Give them something to go home with, whether it's physical or digital, to make sure that they understand the cold hard facts behind each of those questions they may have. And finally, I think that I'm going to let Dr. B cover this one, but we just recently conducted another study. We like to survey different platforms, whether it's our cohort of EHR subscribers or essential subscribers, or even going into social media. We just did a study on our voice to chart functionality within EHR, and I'll let you cover the facts on this.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar, the voice to chart is when somebody walks into the room to start a visit, I hit a button that says record, and then at the end of the visit, I hit done. And it summarizes all the pertinent parts of that, the subjective component of that note. So we surveyed our users. About half of our EHR subscribers are using it right now. They said that the ease of use was 93 out of 100. Does it capture every essential clinical detail? They gave it an 84 out of 100, which is great considering every detail. The likelihood to continue using the product was 92 out of 100. And their average time savings for incorporating that with the Soap Wizard within the ChiroUp EHR, 20% of users said they saved between 30 and 60 seconds, and no one said they saved less than 30 seconds. And more than 80% of users save between 1 and 3+ minutes per note. So for a full-time chiropractor, if you see 4 patients per hour, if you save a minute per note, that adds up fast. If you see, you're going to have 46 additional patient visits per month at that pace. And even if you only charge $50 per visit, that's an extra $2,300 in monthly revenue, which is a 46-to-1 ROI considering the system is $49 a month. And instead of typing out every clinical relevant detail, you now have one button that does it for you.
So hopefully this information on all the things sleep. What is sleep? All the infographics, all the blogs, then of course this podcast. All this stuff was actually inspired by one of our subscribers to just ask for more practical guidance on sleep. That's it. So we couldn't agree more. That's one of the topics that we get a lot as chiropractors, and your feedback continues to shape the content we create and the resources and the functionality that we have in ChiroUp. So really everything that we do is a function of feedback. So if you'd like to give us any more information, any kind of comments, any kind of constructive criticism, send that to Tim, not to me. However, you can send those directly to me at brandon@chiropractic.com, because we truly love hearing what you're saying, and our desire to make your practice easier is really the foundation of our entire company.